Okay, so what I'd like to talk about and to summarize for you is how can you create a table, update or change a table, and then drop a table. Of course, I mean, deleting a table, deleting is very easy. There's just one very simple command to do. But creating a table is a little bit more, takes more time. So anyways, I'm going to, first of all, in this MySQL workbench, I need to create this table inside of a schema. So I need to have a schema somewhere. And what is a schema? Is a place when I have many tables. So I can see here, if I just click on this refresh, these are the list of available that were created. And there's one that it says company. I can also drop a schema. But if you drop a schema, then what is going to happen to the tables inside of it? All gone. So this is also one way if you'd like to delete and start from scratch. You could just delete the whole schema, create it again, and create the tables inside of it. Of course, you can do that as long as you have the restriction as a user to use the name of the schema to start with S, your full ID, and then whatever name you'd like to put. So now if I just do this, Control Enter, you see it says drops schema company, it's running, and it's green, that means it's okay, and it was just refreshed here, and it's gone. So drop generally is for deleting. For deleting something, not as the data, but the structure itself. I'm deleting a structure, I drop it. That's what it means. Now, if I'd like to create now a schema, I'm just going to create a schema, and that's going to create now the schema. Here is going to be running as soon as it finishes. Now it's taking some time, and usually, I don't know why, probably because this computer is slow, and maybe some of you are connected or were connected to it, so it maintains some kind of connection. But even though I think it's mainly because it's slow and I'm opening different things here. So what I'd like to do here is just maybe open this one week, whatever week it is. And then, oh yeah, we have a problem with this proxy thing. So just click on advanced and then proceed, and then it's unsafe. But we have no other option. It's unsafe because what it means is that whatever you do is going to be monitored, because it goes through a proxy. That's what it says. So anyways, if I'd like to create a table, I need to follow this kind of a format. So now I'm going to create a very simple table just for fun, but I cannot just, after creating a schema, I need to use it to specify that if I'd like to create a table. I cannot just say, okay, create table, call it T1, and then inside that I'm going to have like column 1, which is an int, and then column 2, which is a double, and that's it. And then maybe add the constraint. Let's put a comma. As a constraint, let's make the C1 is the primary key. So I'm going to make primary key, and I name it C1. Notice that I did not put any name of that constraint, but it's not advisable. It's advisable to always put in a constraint, a name, and to have some kind of a format. I always use this pk and then table name. That is going to be, I don't have to think too much. If I just would like to deal with that, I just know what to do. For example, I'm going to show you, and then like this. Now I need just to close the parentheses and the brace, and the semicolon is how I finish the instruction. Now if I press on Control and execute, it will execute this one, and you can see it says no database selected. The schema is the database that it is mentioned here. So if I need to select it, how can I do that? I just need to mention that I'd like to use this name of this company, which is the name of the schema that I just created. Now after that, if I use, it says green. After that, if I create the table, it's okay, no problems. Now that I have created the table, and this is what I'd like to be talking about, what if I'd like to modify it? let's say I don't want to have this primary key to be C1, I want it to be C2. So I need to have this alter table. And what's the name of the table? T1. And basically you need just to remember that this is how it works. You need to alter table, and there's no parentheses here. The create table, it does need some parentheses. And then even though I have many things that I would like to do, I can just do them one after the other without parentheses. Why is that? Well, because they decided so. Those guys who woke up earlier than us and designed this in MySQL, they did it this way. If you don't like it, just create your own MySQL or SQL and then call it whatever you want, and then make it work the way you want. So now there's no parentheses here. That's what I'm trying to say. Why? I have no idea. But this is what I'd like to do. I said I would like to change the primary key. So I'm going to change the primary key to be C2. In order for me to do that, well, there's no just change the primary key. I need to drop this constraint, remove this constraint, and add a new one. So I'm going to drop constraint pk company. Yes. No, it's not dropped by default. And I'd like to add a constraint pk company. Alaikum salam. pk company. Yes.
هذا الفيدباك حقه الكويز تولز ولا ما ادري وش
خلينا نسجلها على اساس تدخل. Okay, so after adding this, that's all I need. I need to put the semicolon, and then I clicked on Control S, but it doesn't seem to show me a mistake. I'm not sure if this is a problem or not, so I'm going to run it. Control exam, run, and it tells me you have an error in your SQL stack. Check the manual corresponding to the version, and there's something that you don't see clearly because unfortunately it doesn't show clearly, but it shows you actually where. Here, after this near, you see this near, this is where my problem is. It says constraint pk company and then comma add constraint, which means after this I have a problem. So my problem is somewhere here. So this line here is there's a problem. So why is the problem? Well, I don't know what I was expecting to work. I'm sorry?
Maybe you need to put the primary key.
I need to put the primary key? No, I would like to drop the constraint, to remove a constraint. Maybe drop with constraint doesn't work. I don't know actually. And that's the thing. If I'd like to drop the constraint, I think I don't need to mention drop constraint. Just drop and then give this. And now I'd like to run this thing and see. Still not, doesn't work. Drop this, check column key, it exists. Now what is my problem is this is company, so what's the thing? I have no idea. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to split that into two just to make sure that I'm just running this one and see if this one is a problem. Then I know that I have a problem here. So I'm altering the table T1 and then I'm trying to drop the company. It's not how it works. So how can I fix this? Well, I have no idea. I'm going to see that these are the columns and the indexes, the primary key. This is what I'm going to see which one is the primary key. No. How can I know which one is the primary key? It doesn't show me here which one is the primary key. I can see if there is a foreign key, I can see it, but there's none. But the primary key doesn't seem to show me. I thought maybe I could see this. I'd like to show you something. If I'd like to see, for example, the result of the if I'd like to see actually what's the table that I have, besides having here, there's another way. Describe T1. Describe T1 is going to show me the content of that table T1, and this is what it shows me. If you can see, it's kind of small, but it's visible. You see, I have two fields, C1, C2. This one is int with the 11. We don't care about that number for now, and then double. null. This thing we haven't spoken about it, but we need to talk about it at some point. And then primary, this pri stands for the key is a primary key. There's some other things, but we don't care about them. So I can see that this is still my primary. If I'd like to drop it, well, how can I do that? Now, how to drop that? Well, there's some kind of help that I can get from this MySQL. Let me just close this here. Now, this describe means I can see what's the table is, what's the structure of the table. Now, if I'd like to get some help, there's some things that I can get here from the snippets here. So, what kind of snippets? Yes. Why? If I drop the schema, I would drop everything. I would drop the tables and everything. I just would like to drop only the column, the constraint. So I would like to see is just what's the syntax. And I'd like to show you that how can I find the syntax here. You see here in the snippets, I can click here and select the SQL DDL. And I can get more details. You see what I would like to do. Alter procedure, we haven't seen that yet. Alter a table, that's what I'd like. And if I click on it, I can see, oh, that's a big thing. And you can see alter, and there's a lot of things. I'd like to show you, since we're talking about this, I'd like to show you how to understand this thing. But it's too small, I'd like to make it bigger. Yes. And let me edit. Can I? No. No way to make it bigger than this. So what I'm going to do, copy everything. And done. I'd like to maybe open a new one. Or create a new one. Maybe just a plus here, plus SQL. It's going to open a new one. And let me zoom in. Now, alter, and whenever you see these things, these are optional things that I can add. Okay, so alter and then ignore. I don't know what this does it do. I have no idea, honestly, but I don't care about it. So I'll alter and then table, which means this is optional. I can put it if I would like to do something, but I don't need it. And then there's this table, then the table name. That's what I did. And then the alter specifications comes here. So what is this alter specification? And you can see it shows you there's alter specification, or you can have more. If you want to have more, this is optional again. The brackets means optional. You can have another alter specification, but you need to be it has to need to have a comma before it if you'd like to have more than one alter specification. Like what I tried to do in the beginning. You see, I tried to add this and then a comma and then another alter. So now let's see each alter specification. What can it be? This alter specification, then you have the information about it. It has some table options, or this stands for or. You can use add column, this name and then the definition if you'd like to add a column, or can just use add without column. And you can specify if you want it to be first column of the table or after this column. This is what it means. So this is optional, but if you would like to use, you can either use first or after a specific column. So if I would like to add something in the middle, C3 to be, for example, between C1 and C2, I can just say add. Column is optional, but if I mention it, it's not the problem. Column C3. Let me just do this so I can understand what I'm trying to say. I just would like to add the column. If I put it or not put it, it's not a problem, but I prefer to put it to make it easy, clear. And then int again, and after C1. So what this is going to do, if I execute this, it's going to run inshallah green, and then describe just to see what happened. You see the C3 is in the middle between C1 and C2 because this is what I mentioned. Add it after C1. So anyways, that's what I had. I ended up doing. Now if I would like to drop a column, let's just drop the column. I don't need to mention anything. If I'd like to drop, then I need to go here and find what's the syntax of a drop. If I would like to drop, well, this is the column. I just need to mention the column name. That's what I need. So I'll drop the column name, and it's going to remove this one. So now this C3 is gone. And if I click on this, execute again, I have C1 and C2. Fine. Now I'd like to find this drop constraint. I'd like to remove a constraint. Can you find it? You see, it says drop primary key. There's no constraint that I can drop. But either I drop the primary key immediately and drop foreign key. So this is what I can drop. So what I was trying to do is this drop. Let me Control Z. I can bring things back. Okay, and then yes. Now what I was trying to do with this, that's not the way how to drop it. If I'd like to drop it, I need to drop the primary key. And then if I'd like to add a constraint, well, let's go back. If I'd like to add a constraint, it's possible. Then you can specify the constraint, and then the symbol is the name of that constraint. And then there's some other options, index type, that I don't want to talk about it, and then the index column. That's the column. If you would like to have more than one column, you can add more than one column. And there's some kind of other options. I don't want to talk about the options. If you'd like to know them, you can go back here and you can see what are the options. This is what you can do and what do they mean, and it's another story. So knowing now this, I can just go back here, and this will drop the primary key, the constraint, the primary key, and add a new constraint, which is the primary key, like this. So now this will make the primary key to be C2 instead of C1. What I'm going to do, I'm going to describe T1 before and describe T1 after. So what am I doing here? I'm going to select all these, and I'm going to describe this, alter the table, and then describe this again. The advantage is that I'm going to see both before and after. So this is before, the primary was C1, after the primary is C2. But I'll just take this opportunity to show you this thing here, because this is very powerful. If you know how to use it, you don't need to Google anything, especially if the syntax, how to type it. If you'd like to drop a table, this is the syntax of that, and then just drop table, and then you get the name. If you'd like to have more, and then there's some kind of options that we don't need, and whatever it's in between brackets, these are optional. Yeah. No, I did not drop the column. I dropped only the primary key. Let's do that. You know what? Let's just remove this thing. And I just would like to drop the primary key. And I forgot. I need to have this semicolon here. I'm dropping only the primary key, and let's describe it so I can see what's now. You see, the columns are here, but just there's no primary key. Yes.
There is two primary keys.
There are no two primary keys. If I have a column, like if I have in a table, let's say, for example, I would like to add as a constraint a primary key to be C1 and C2. Both of them are the primary key. Then if you drop the primary key, you're going to drop both of them. When you drop the primary key, regardless of which one. Now, for example, now if I just have this, what I just did is both of them are the primary key. But if I just drop the constraint, drop the primary key, and then I'd like to add the primary key to be only C1 this time. So it will remove all the primary keys from both of them and then make only C1. Well, now because I clicked on this one, when I click on this one, it will execute everything. I just would like to, if I'd like to execute everything, I can just say create schema if not exist. You remember we spoke about this, that you can put these conditions. This is not going to be a problem. Create table if not exists. So if it exists, I'm not going to create it, and then this is not going to be a problem now. I can run everything, so it's going to be trying to create everything, and then so this is how it was, and this is now the new constraint after my alter. There was a question there. Yes. I'm sorry. Describe. What's the spelling, you mean?
No. Describe T1.
Yes.
You write it twice.
Why I did it twice? Because I want to see before. This T1 is going to be before the alter, and this result is after. So I can see before and after, without it's just run at the same time. So I don't have to click on it again. That's why I would like to see both of them at the same time. So that's why I run all of these by doing this, and I can see before and after. Is that okay?
Yes.
The drop is very easy. You can drop is not something problematic, but you can see that the alter, if I'd like to add, you can add a lot of things. There are so many things we haven't seen, and we just focus on only the things that we've seen. Add special. What is special? Add full text. We don't care about these things. Add index. For now, we don't care about it. I'm sorry? Well, that's another type of, I don't want to talk about these things, but anyways, for now. Later on, we will talk about them. But for now, let's just take things simple. Now, we know how to create. Even though if you'd like to have this create table, you can see it here. There's a create table. Double click on it, and then you're going to see the different type of constraint, what you can do. You can add some kind of check and expression. That's something we haven't seen, and then this is how you read it. Unfortunately, it's really too. I was thinking maybe this can be resized, but it doesn't seem to be resized. I'm sorry. The arrow? No, this is going to cancel something. It's like a undo, something like that. Because you can change something, I think, or maybe here edit. If I edit something, I can change. No. I hope this is not going to be. There's no way for me to cancel. Okay. Let's bring it as it was. Okay, done. So that's the thing here. Now, what I'd like to talk about is how to insert some data in the tables. Now, I have my table here. Of course, I mean, I did not show you how to drop a foreign key, but you got the point. But the foreign key, I need to specify what's the foreign key name, the constraint, the name of the constraint. And there's a lot of different things. Disable keys, enable keys. This is something, well, anyways. Rename to new table. If we would like to change the name of the table. There's a lot of different things that you can check here if you have some curiosity that I advise you to have. Now, I have created this table, and then what I'd like to do, I worked with this alter. I'd like to insert some things inside the table. Now this T1. And this is the topic that I'd like to cover for today as well. So we've seen about this creating table, dropping, etc. And then these are the different options that we can do with the data. Now, this create, alter, drop is for the structure. For the data is something else, and I'd like to record a separate video because just to put them in two different places.